What's up, everybody? My name is Jordan here at Hive Mind Hobbies. I love Tyranids, and I love showing you how I would deploy my Tyranids. So in this video, I'm going to be walking you through how I would deploy my Vanguard Onslaught list that I've been playing. It's very fun. It's also very, very strong. I fondly have named it a Ravener City because it's got 30 Raveners in it. 30 Raveners, and it's pretty good. I am quite happy with it. We're going to talk about a couple of different things, how I would deploy it just regularly, and then go from there. We're terrain layout 2, and let's say we are on Search and Destroy. Let's do Crucible of Battle as a good deployment map for this. All right. So the first thing that you're going to want to think about when you're playing with the hyper-adapted bricks is whether or not you are going to split them or combine them. I will say probably most of the time you are going to want to combine at least 2 of the 3 bricks. And that's kind of my go-to right now, is to combine 20 Raveners together and then have these last 10-man Raveners be one 5-man squad of regular Raveners and the one 5-man squad of hyper-adapted Raveners. And that's just to give me a little bit more utility and maybe an additional trading piece so that I can move around the table and not commit my full 300-point unit all at once. All right. So before we get too farther into it, let's go over the list. One thing about this list is it doesn't really have any enhancements. It is all punch. Just punches, 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 and that's kind of all it does. I have a Hive Tyrant. Hive Tyrant is one of my favorite pieces in the list. It's very, very strong. I have 3 hyper-adapted Ravener squads, of course, because it's Ravener City, you know? And I have a Neurotyrant. I think in this list, I've had the Neurotyrant be my Warlord. In case I'm playing against Knights, then the Neurotyrant can just stay in the back, screen a flank of my deployment zone over here, and just hang out. All right, those are the characters. No battle lines, no gargoyles, no Hormagaunts. None of that. We are just full punch. And the idea is that our lictors are going to kind of take up the action secondary, you know, kind of thing where I would want battle line. And then everything else is just going to punch hard enough that hopefully your opponent can't hold primary. And then you win. Have a great day, you know? Okay, so let's get into deploying. One more thing that I will say with the deciding whether or not you're going to have 2 or 3 squads split up. I think almost all the time you're going to have 2, and then these 2 5. However, if you're playing against something like Knights, where everything is like a super big, annoying unit, you're going to have your 30 Raveners all combined, right? Okay, so let's deploy. Let's get it going. We're just going to pretend it's just regular, like, take and hold, and just be boring, but just kind of have the exercise of deploying. So let's say we'll roll off with our opponent. Opponent got a 5, we got a 1. Okay, so opponent's going to go first, and let's say they're actually very spooked by my Gene Stealer scouting, which would be something to be spooked by. And let's say that they are going to put like an infiltrating unit right here. In fact, let me just copy something. I'm just going to copy this lictor, put it down there, and I will also color code it so that we know this lictor is an enemy lictor, right? And then 9 inches off of this, nobody can scout, I can't infiltrate, yada, yada, yada. So actually, if I was this opponent, I'll probably put the lictor here. Still screening my main staging point, which is this point right here. If I could get Gene Stealers like back here turn 1, I would love to. But the lictor is going to kind of stop them from scouting directly at it, which makes me a little sad, but we'll see. All right, so if they put their lictor there, then I am going to put my lictor here. That's because of a number of things, right? I don't want my opponent to be able to screen me off of this objective, which is actually kind of safe for my opponent. And I want to be able to have my Gene Stealers hide in this little hole right here. This is prime Genestealer scouting area, and I want to make sure that my Lictor is going to cushion that area and allow for me to just take it and stay there for a good stage. All right. Next, we're just going to kind of deploy regularly after there. I think this one infiltrating is annoying enough. We're just going to say opponent doesn't have any other infiltrating, and we'll just go from there. Next thing that I'm wanting to do, especially if my opponent doesn't have any other infiltrating, is deploy the things that don't really matter, right? Deploy the things that my opponent is going to know where they're going to go, right? And it's not really, nobody's fooling anybody. I'm going to have this Biovore just barely touching this back objective right there. So he's kind of screening out here. Unless you're playing against Tyranids, then you'd have to scoot him back just a little bit more to make sure that there's no Spore Mine shenanigans. So Biovore would go down there. And then the next units that also really don't matter where they go are going to be at least one squad of Raveners. Now in Vanguard Onslaught, it's not the same idea as if you're playing in Subterranean Assault, or if you're playing just a different detachment that is using Hyper-Adapted Raveners for their utility piece. Vanguard Onslaught, you actually might not pick up your Raveners, and you might just advance them up the board and say, cowabunga, dude, I'm going to get you turn 2, turn 3. That might be something that happens. So I will put the Raveners here. There's a chance we pick them up in my opponent's turn, but there's also a chance that they just stay there, move up here behind this cover, and then they can counterattack that objective. Who knows? All right, so we put first squad of Raveners down there. Next, let's maybe put another infiltrating unit. I will put this Lictor here. Again, this is going to allow for the Lictor to come up and have an avenue of holding this objective and allowing for the Genestealers to activate and move up and counterattack if they need to. If your opponent does have a second infiltrator and they don't put it over here, this is where I would put my Lictor next. You know, the priority on dropping the infiltrators, that's where I'd put the Lictor next, just so I can screen out this objective. You could be more aggressive and go here and say, I'm going to go first and I'm going to put a Lictor in your face. But that is not always the correct choice. So let's say we're being a little bit conservative with our Lictor. I will put the Lictor right there, covering the objective, and then it's going to allow for some pressure over there. Cool, cool, cool. Then a Neurotyrant is definitely going to be, it's going to kind of matter, but again, I'm not too worried about it. At this point, you're going to kind of decide which of your Lictors is going to be more aggressive or kind of hang back. And it also depends on what faction you're playing. If you're playing into some kind of Marines, then the idea of your Neurotyrant being within 18 inches of your Lictor so that they can get Synapse and so that your Lictor can eat some yummy Space Marine head brain stuff, then you're definitely going to want your Neurotyrant within 18 inches of the Lictor so that you can get that beautiful Strength 8. So let's say that this Neurotyrant is going to want to go there so that that Lictor has the possibility of getting there. Because honestly, we are running out of safe spots for something like a Lictor. Something that has Scout, we're going to have plenty of safe spots to have, like our Genestealers, so we're not too much worried about them. Another unit that we definitely want to be careful with is our Hive Tyrant. Now, we're going to see if a Hive Tyrant fits here. If my opponent steps out right there with some type of gun, I do not think my Hive Tyrant will be able to be shot. Especially if you rotate its very large, beautiful wings. So this Hive Tyrant will have a hard time being shot right there. Maybe the wings do give it a little bit of trouble, which is kind of the story of Hive Tyrants, right? Flying ones, that is. So we go there. Also be wary of if your opponent comes over here, can they shoot at it? Probably not, because you can 18-inch low knob, which would be pretty sweet. That would also be good if your opponent comes out with one of their big scary shooter units that wants to hit a winged Hive Tyrant. Then of course you're just going to hit it with Genestealers that you're about to deploy. And let's say we do the 5-man Genestealers over here. And here's something that I like to do. I think I showed it in another video, but I'll show it again. If this is where I want my Genestealers to wind up, right? first turn so that they're very, very hidden. Actually, we probably want to go like this. Gene Stealer like this, and then like that. Okay, now we want to measure back 8 inches from all of these guys and say, okay, if I go second, I know that my Gene Stealers can scout 8, which would be right there, and just be in that hidey hole. So that's where we'll deploy those Gene Stealers. They'll just run into this part directly behind terrain, and they will not be able to be shot at. Let's see. One of my rules of deployment is I always like to have one unit that can touch the center and one unit that can go and touch my expansion, meaning my closest objective, turn 1 without really committing anything else. So we're going to send a lictor out here so that that lictor can do that and touch that objective. This is going to help me with area denial. This is going to help me with cleanse. This is going to help me with establish locus as well. And if I'm throwing out a lictor here, I'm fine with that, especially since I'm going to put my Gene Stealers here. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. And I probably actually measure this before I deploy my lictor, just so that I know my Gene Stealers are going to have enough space, right? I could go here. Gene Stealers are going to be relatively safe in this terrain. Let's in fact actually get this lictor out of the way because he's probably not going to have enough room. So I would probably do this before I measure my lictor. And here's a trick that you can do with coherency, right? So you don't want to be wholly on, or you don't want to be on the terrain if you're not going to be hidden by the wall. So this Gene Stealer wants to be right there within 2 inches of the Broodlord. Then all these other Gene Stealers would be right here. And they're still in coherency because they're within 2 of this guy who's branching off of that Broodlord right there. I'll zoom in so we can see it. And this is where the Gene Stealers are going to end up after they scout. So once you place them there, you pretend like you're scouting in reverse. And this is, of course, before anybody goes. And you're going to scoot them back 8 inches. And they should end up right here. I think this guy is going to go here. Boom. And obviously these guys could be up here, but you don't move them up their full 8 inches. It's just this 6 squad right there that you're going to want, or the Broodlord and 5 Gene Stealers that are going to want to be here. And then these guys will be behind the terrain so they can't be seen. So that means that our lictor would most likely actually have to go right here. Can still touch the center. Rather, can still be within 3 of the center, because he has an 8-inch move and it's only 10 inches away. Easy peasy. I forgot to mention, these two are split up. I will put the hyper adaptives that are split from the other Raveners immediately in Deep Strike so they can afford to rapid ingress for free. And then these Raveners, we're just going to throw somewhere where they are most likely going to be uppy downying. And we'll probably just put them right here, behind the Biovore. Now this Gene Stealer squad is going to go right here. And again, we're going to do the same scout trick. We're going to figure out where we want these Gene Stealers to go in case we go second. And then we're going to move them back 8 and try and be maybe, you know, having an advantage if we go first. So Broodlord's going to be up front. You always want the Broodlord up front so that he can give his -1 to hit ability to anything in combat. And then you want your Gene Stealers to hide into this little pocket. Now this only works on Crucible of Battle. I think on Tipping Point, this nook is a little bit further away. But you get the idea. And then you want these Gene Stealers to be here so they cannot be seen. Something like this. Boom. Okay, so if we're pretty confident that this clump of Gene Stealers cannot be seen because of the terrain, because of where they are, that would be a safe turn 2. I'm going to move them back 8 just like that. So you had a conversation with your opponent. If I go first, then I can just go directly straight up and hit something. If I go second, then I'm just going to hide into this hole and you can't get me. All right. Last but definitely not least, the Raveners. Now, the thing you're going to want to do with the Raveners is you're going to want to stage them where the Gene Stealers are going to stage. Or you want for them to be able to stage after the Gene Stealers have moved. And a great position for them to do that is right here behind this wall. So that if either group of Gene Stealers is wanting to be aggressive and moving up the table, then, give me 1 second, I'm going to get these guys situated, and then, man, I'm struggling with these Raveners. I don't want to cooperate. And at this point, a lot of people say deploy an inch off the wall. I think you can just deploy them on the wall. Who cares? Who's going to really come and get Raveners right now, turn 1? You can put them on the wall. So the point of the Raveners being here is if these Gene Stealers are going to be here, then these Raveners can move up in advance, and then they can be right where the Gene Stealers are next turn. So that the Raveners will be in position to then jump from this spot and advance and charge this objective, and maybe also threaten this objective up here. But these Raveners are probably going to be the ones doing that. From this position as well, you can also advance them. Now, it might be a tough advance, but you could also get them over here, somewhere safe. It's probably more likely going to be up here just because of how far away it is, but you do have the option for the Raveners to go either behind this template or go over here. And then all of these are just our tokens. All right, so that's my thought process when I'm deploying this list. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of just punch, 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 seeing what's happening, and then having to make your opponent react. Now, we are going to simulate a first turn. Let's see, what would be better to show? Going first or going second? I think I've already kind of talked about going second by deploying aggressively, but we're really using our scouts to make sure they can just scout and still get up the field, but be behind terrain so that they are out of line of sight. I think I've already talked about that. So let's assume we are going first, and we're going to kind of decide how aggressive we are going to be. We know we have one unit here, and let's say our opponent is probably putting some important units over here. All right, I'm going to shuffle up my secondaries, and let's see what we draw turn 1. And even though Vanguard Onslaught has the potential to be aggressive turn 1, you don't always want to do that. If you're playing an opponent that has not made any deployment mistakes, meaning they haven't left things out in the open for Gene Stealers to just get immediately and kill, you probably want to aim for turn 2. Turn 2, you want to be punching with Gene Stealers and then threaten rapid ingress with your Raveners during their movement phase. So when we simulate this, depending on the secondaries, almost all of them, we are going to be a little bit staging for the next turn. And then for turn 2, we run advance hit with our Gene Stealers. We rapid ingress our Raveners during your opponent's movement phase, and then the Raveners clean up turn 3. Let's see what our secondaries are for turn 1. Establish Locus and Sabotage. And this perfectly shows why you want to have your lictors. And of course, we know we're going first. I still think we're conservative with our Gene Stealers. I still think we go here because of the reasons I just listed before. Boom. I'm going to be a little bit haphazard with moving these Gene Stealers because if you've moved Gene Stealers in real life, you know that they're annoying to move. And in TTS, they're not that much easier. So these Gene Stealers are staged up here before we know our secondaries. We're going to say that this lictor is going to be, let's say that our lictor here, if your opponent has something over here, lictors can be really good at just getting in your opponent's face and saying, don't come over here, right? So let's say your opponent has a couple skirmishing units or something, and what we're going to do, if we want to do this, you don't have to, but you can, well, if you roll a 6, you can move the lictor up 14, and he could be really annoying. If he has the opportunity to charge a transport or something and just lock a unit up over here, or if there's like a smaller unit, a screening unit, throw your lictor in there and just have him cause some mayhem and really do some damage turn 1. That would be pretty good. This is also going to create a little bit of a blanket, a little bit of a screen with your Gene Stealers or for your Gene Stealers back here. So if they counter charge and put some actual units out here to kill your Lictor, well, then your Gene Stealers can advance and charge the next turn and then be up in their face there. So Lictor's going to go there. We salute our Lictor. Bye-bye. This Lictor's going to be here. So he's within 3, and he's going to establish Locus. Very cool. Excuse me, these Gene Stealers were already up. I apologize. And they'll be here. And then these Gene Stealers are probably just going to sabotage, right? Because they're not really... There's not a whole lot of potential for them to get hurt. And they're going to be there. And we actually want these Raveners to pick up in our opponent's turn so that we can do some cool stuff. So these Gene Stealers are here. Let's say we hide them a little bit better so they can't get shot. We'll do the thing that we were talking about. Here. Here. We'll advance our Raveners. Now these Raveners, well, they're going to move 15. These Raveners are probably also being picked up in your opponent's turn. But if there's a pocket for them to just deploy here and offer for a counter charge after your Gene Stealers have activated, super cool. Now I'm going to check a line of sight real quick. And of course, we don't really know what we're playing. At this point, I would check a line of sight and see if my opponent has something meaningful that could hit these Raveners. If they do, then the Raveners are actually probably staying put and they're just getting picked up. But there could be a good chance where they are here. So look at this line of sight. If your opponent has a meaningful shooting weapon, then you go here. This is also a good option to just say, I'm going to move the Raveners here, and then I'm going to do my Unseen Lurker stratagem, or whatever it is that allows for the 18-inch lone op. You can't shoot them. Boom. Okay? But also make sure that your opponent can't come over here and shoot at your Wing Tyrant or anything there. Then my Raveners here, I'm also going to advance them up. Again, these guys could also uppy downy, but the potential for an additional turn for them coming out and attacking a screen or something could be good. There's also a thought that maybe I should have been more aggressive with deploying these Raveners so that they can get into combat a little bit quicker. But I think just leaving them up as a uppy downy threat is also pretty good. Okay, these Raveners are definitely staying put. They are absolutely going to be picked up during your opponent's turn. And that's another thing you are going to also want to make sure that you're screening out just a little bit. And there you go. One more thing. I'm going to advance my Neurotyrant. And I actually want my Neurotyrant to start making its way over here. And you still want to check lines of sight. Make sure it's behind that. But later on in the game, I actually use my Neurotyrant strictly for screening my back corner over here. Vanguard Onslaught, this corner over here. Vanguard Onslaught, of course, wants to go, 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 and punch, punch, punch. And so you want a unit. I use my Neurotyrant to screen over your other side of your deployment. You got your Biovore on this one, and then your Neurotyrant is going to mosey over. Turn 2 or turn 3, be over there, just screen out over there. Okay, so with this deployment, we have gotten, what was it, Established Locus? Yep, we've gotten it for 2. We've gotten Sabotage with these Gene Stealers over here, and we're really giving our opponent not a whole lot of good options. This Wing Type Tyrant probably wants to scoot up a little bit, but he's actually probably kind of okay just right there. We're really looking for a turn 2 big punch. If your opponent comes out over here and wants to get the Lictor off of this objective, then these Gene Stealers can advance and charge and tag whatever. The Hive Tyrant can also go over there as well. So we've scored secondaries. We've scored Established Locus. We're scoring Sabotage. And again, we haven't really given our opponent too many good options. Maybe you lose 2 Lictors, but the punch back from all of the Raveners and the Gene Stealers is going to be disgusting. If you want to see this list in action, check it out tomorrow night on Wednesday Night Warhammer. I will link the channel in the description below. I'm going to be playing 30 Raveners against, I don't even know what my buddy Zach is playing, but check it out. It's going to be a great time. If you enjoy this content, like it. It really, really helps. Comment below what you think about this flavor of Vanguard Onslaught. And comment below about what other types of videos you would like for me to cover, talking specifically about Tyranids. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.